The following feature presentation is part of the Skywalking Network.
This is what you can look forward to on episode 424 of Skywalking Through Neverland.
I want that written on my tombstone. John Williams shushed me.
This movie had two really brilliant ideas.
And the music swells, and you get the Indiana Jones theme for the first time, and our whole theater was like, yeah! And he's naked, 80-year-old man, Harrison Ford, like naked almost.
Sarah needed one of those Sizzler bibs. She was drooling. I'm jonesing, no pun intended, for another world premiere.
Yeah.
Hey, Skywalkers. If adventure has a name, all right, all together now, it must be Indiana Jones. So set your dial for a roller coaster of a good time because you are destined to have fun. My best intro yet. But first, we want to welcome you back to
Skywalking Through Neverland.
I am Richard Woloski, but now everyone please say hello to my sweetie wife Sarah, the Willie Scott to my short round.
Oh, please don't compare me to Willie Scott. What the heck?
You know what? For a second there, I almost said Willie Ames.
You'll never take me alive, Charles!
I don't know what that means.
He was the older brother on Eight Is Enough. The curly red hair. He was in the movie Zapped. Charles in Charge.
Okay, Charles
Willie
in charge.
Ames, yeah.
Okay.
So for a second there, my brain had a jockey between Willie Scott and Willie Ames.
Got it.
And
okay.
You know what? And I can tell right now that I would have been wrong both ways.
Yes.
All right, take two. The Marion Ravenwood to my Sala. It's my sweetie wife Sarah.
Thank you. But, sweetie, you're indie.
You know what? I didn't want to presume.
Indie all
I didn't
the
want
way.
to presume that you could think of me as Indiana Jones.
I mean, look how cute you are with your hat
There
on.
you
And
go.
my hat, too. Yes.
Perfect. And even have the Dr. Jones, the Professor Jones glasses.
You do. I need some love you written on my eyelids right now. All right.
Okay, side note, did you see that they had just found that girl? Mm-hmm. Her name is Julie Brown, and she is now a script doctor in films.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Following in the footsteps of Carrie Fisher.
No, did I say script doctor? No, she's
Yes.
a script supervisor.
Oh, okay. Okay, got it.
My bad. So she sits on set and she takes down all the continuity.
Okay, wow, that's a big job.
It's a huge job. It's way too much responsibility for one person, but one person does it, and most times they do it very, very well. So we gotta find Julie Bowen. Bowen. Oh, me and my name. Julie Bowen is from Modern Family.
Yes.
Okay, Julie Brown. Let's just move on. Okay?
Julie Brown. All right.
What more can I screw up?
Let's move on. And everyone, we are your enthusiastic podcast destination for the many decades of your Star Wars, Disney, and Marvel fandom. So imagine a big Wookiee hug from us and a sprinkle of pixie dust and maybe a couple whip cracks for our family of Skywalkers. Now, we are being sponsored by Small World Vacations, and they are a diamond-level Disney vacation planner travel agency and can help you book your trip to Disney parks around the world. And best of all, their service is free of charge. So head to smallworldvacations.com for a no-obligation price quote and tell them Skywalking Through Neverland sent you.
All right, Skywalkers. Are you going to San Diego Comic-Con next month? Huh? Well, if you are, then you've got to join us as we host our Star Wars Trivia Challenge Strikes Back game night. I am so looking forward to this. This will be held on Friday, July 21st at 8 p.m. There'll be a lot of prizes, a lot of fun, and I'm just counting down the days. This is like my Christmas.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
so happy about this. And once again, if you had seen us at Ontario Comic-Con in May, we had a blast doing this big Star Wars trivia challenge. And if you were there, expect 89% more fun.
More fun.
Yeah, I've calculated that.
I can't wait.
All right, now we are recording this from Long Beach, California on June the 26th, 2023.
And in this episode, we will share our experience at the Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny world premiere in Hollywood. And then we are going to break down and give our review of the film and see where it places in the indie verse.
Now, with over 42 years of Indiana Jones, well, we wanted to share the fun. And who better to ask than our good friend Mike Celestino from Who's the Bossk Podcast at laughingplace.com. Hey, Mike.
Hey, Rich and Sarah. Very good to be back on the show. Thank you so much for inviting me. And it's great to be on the show for the first time after actually physically being in the room that you guys are in right now. So I can have the geography now of where exactly that is.
You've been to the Skywalking studio.
Yes, I have.
Did you visit our gift shop?
Oh, I didn't realize that I could buy some of that stuff. I would have totally taken you up on that.
Yeah, there's a 300% markup on all the stuff behind me. Yeah, so we're so excited to have you with us because we know that you had seen the world premiere with us. We'll get into that in just a few seconds. And so let's go back 42 years, okay?
Okay.
Now, I'm not sure how old you are, Mike.
He's a year older than me.
I've never asked you. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So then I was going to ask you, did you see Raiders on their first day of release? But you were 1, so chances are no.
Correct. 42 years ago, I was 1 year old. I'm 43 right now. I was born in late 1979, so I was 1 year old when Raiders of the Lost Ark came out. I didn't see it until years later on VHS, but I have been an indie fan since a very early age, having grown up with these movies otherwise on VHS. I don't think I even saw Last Crusade in the theaters, but loved them on home video, and then came to be a tremendous fan, a really big Indiana Jones fan in my teenage and adult years.
I think Temple of Doom is the only film I did not see in the theaters.
Oh my, you didn't see that in the theater?
No, I did not.
Why not?
I don't know.
What's wrong with you?
Coming off of Raiders of the Lost Ark, why I didn't see this in the... Oh, summer of '84, that belonged to Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was still in school in May, and then when school got out, Ghostbusters had come on out, and we were all over that. So Temple of Doom just took a back seat, and it just looked kind of eerie.
Okay.
It didn't look like something that I wanted as the follow-up to Raiders.
Mm-hmm.
So I was very hesitant because I didn't want to go in there not liking it. So
Right.
I thought, okay, then I just won't see it at all.
That's funny. I'm very much like Mike, where I was introduced to it on VHS, and all through middle school and high school, I was totally into the indie films and probably introduced it to a couple of my friends as well.
Now, I know right before we saw Dial of Destiny, we all had watched the whole Indiana Jones saga. So, Mike, when you just rewatched them, did you see anything differently in a whole different perspective?
I will say that I have seen these movies in the theater as an adult. I think I saw them in college in a class, and then, whenever they would play at like one of those revival theaters, I would go see whichever movie was playing that day. So I have gotten to see them in that big theater, big screen experience, but this was my first time watching all of them in 4K because I bought the 4K box set recently when I got a PlayStation 5. And I will say that the amount of detail that you can make out now in that resolution, that very high resolution on my nice big screen TV at home, I was noticing all sorts of little details throughout. Even like reading the names of the colleges on the above the door when he's going into the college in Last Crusade. Like I don't know if I'd ever noticed that kind of thing before. So yeah, we were looking out for all sorts of stuff. The other little detail that I noticed that I picked up on, actually, I like pre-screened the beginning of Raiders before our big marathon. And I noticed that at the beginning of Raiders of the Lost Ark, when Belloc takes Indiana Jones's revolver after he comes out of the temple, Belloc is already holding Indy's whip in his other hand. So there must be a deleted shot of Indy handing his whip to Belloc in that scene. I had never noticed that before.
That whip will appear and reappear
Yeah.
just when you need it. Like,
Right.
like when after Satipo?
Sadapo?
Yeah, after he grabs the idol from Indy, Indy throws it to him, and he drops the whip.
Right.
And Indy's gonna jump across the chasm and roll underneath the door. Well, as he's rolling underneath the door, there's no whip in that shot. Cut to the reverse angle, and there's the whip.
Right.
So that whip just comes and goes.
Yeah.
Whenever the plot needs it, it's right there.
Exactly.
So, Sarah, how about you?
Oh,
After seeing these films, and I'm not sure when the last time we watched them.
like all in order. Yeah, I mean, we never watched them all in order like this.
No.
In
I
a
think
nice...
during the pandemic we had watched Raiders during a tweet party.
Yeah, and I watched Crystal Skull again because I was on Mike's Who's the Bossk podcast,
Mhm.
because that was my film for his Lucasfilm year. But so what I noticed specifically, I mean, Harrison Ford. I always notice Harrison Ford, but I mean, he was
Do I
my
need to leave the room again?
yes, he's my major crush growing up. So it's gonna come back to Harrison Ford
And
all the
even
time.
to this day.
Even to this day.
Well, Sarah,
And-
you were in the room at the beginning of Raiders for my marathon. I think my friend David commented, "Has anyone ever looked as good before or since Harrison Ford looks, than Harrison Ford looks at the beginning of Raiders?"
Yeah. So even your friend also can
Yeah.
appreciate Harrison Ford.
You know what? He's a very handsome gentleman.
He is. So what I noticed is while watching these films, he is acting, and I saw his acting progress watching in the space of a day all these years that he's progressed. So like at the very beginning in 1980 when he's shooting Indiana Jones, he's very good at action. Like he's got his action down. He did a lot of those stunts himself. That's been noted, and he's just great at action. Then you get more into, well, even Crystal Skull. You zoom to Crystal Skull, and he is really funny. His comedic timing is like bam, on point. There's like such a difference between that first film and Crystal Skull. And then when we get there, I'll talk about Dial of Destiny. But that's what I noticed a lot was just Harrison Ford's acting journey.
I think it's always been notable to me how smart and funny Harrison Ford is as a real human person. Like whenever you hear about him contributing something to a movie or coming up with an idea for a line or a moment in a script or something like that, it's always one of the best, most clever parts of that movie, right? So I think he is genuinely a very smart person, in addition to being attractive enough to be a mega blockbuster movie star.
And he's got such a dry wit too. I've been watching a lot of Harrison Ford interviews over the years on YouTube, and Harrison hates doing talk shows. He hates, and you can tell by his demeanor, he doesn't like doing them, but his wit is so funny. The dry humor is just, I've never seen anyone come up with these little zingers like Harrison Ford. He's just, he tried some comedy improv groups. I had some friends who were in a class with him.
Oh, wow.
And he said he hated it. He needs a script. He doesn't like to do improv. He needs a script. When put to the test, he is funny. The man is funny.
Yeah.
Now, for me, going back over these indie films, and I'm so glad that I did, because there was always something so off between each film. And what was that? Raiders was something very unique. It was very realistic. Of course, you throw in some things that are unrealistic, but still, it was surrounded by realism. You could believe everything that was going on. So in the end, when all the spirits came out of the ark, it's like, okay, you know what? I believe this. I can get on board with this. Cut to Temple of Doom. I think they thought, okay, now we know what we have. Let's just really blow it up And let's just go really comical, some slapsticky stuff. We'll tell Willie, not Willie Ames, Willie Scott.
Willie Scott.
to just keep yelling, no matter what, bugs, rats, whatever. You just keep yelling and screaming like a damsel in distress. You bring in the little short round for more comic relief.
Mm-hmm.
And then comes Last Crusade, and you better leave the room, Sarah. This is her favorite, but it was so jokey. Whereas the first film, the humor was very genuine. Now it was, here goes the setup, and there's the joke. Here goes the setup, and there's the joke again. Father, son.
Dad, what? Dad, what?
Yeah.
Dad,
Okay.
into the fireplace.
Give it a couple of times, and we're good. But there was just too much of that. There was way too much slapstick.
Okay.
Come to Crystal Skull, which I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed Crystal Skull. I thought
Upon this rewatch, right?
upon this rewatch
Yeah.
and watching it again, it's like we're like 45 minutes into it. We pause it, it's like, this is really fun. You take out Mutt, you have an even better film. Take out the swinging monkeys, and you get a bona fide blockbuster. this couldn't have been any better, but yeah, Mutt was just a little too much to handle. So that's what I took away from this last time seeing these films. All right, so now with that, let's jump ahead to Indiana Jones 5.
Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny.
Yes. Now, we all thought we were just going to see a media screening until we got an email like less than a week before.
Like 2 days before.
2 days before.
Yes.
Saying that we're going to attend the world premiere. Now, this is why we got into podcasting, because we wanted to go to these world premieres.
I will correct you there and say it was not the world premiere. The world premiere was at Cannes Film Festival.
Okay.
This was just the premiere.
Okay. Well, they were hyping it as the world premiere. Now, at the Cannes Film Festival, I don't think it was as big as it was here.
Okay, on our
Okay,
little
let's say
invite.
domestic premiere.
Yes. Yes.
Outside of a film festival, this is the
Sure.
Of course, it did say world premiere with a couple of asterisks.
Yeah.
Right.
So Mike, what did you think when you saw that email saying that you were going to attend the premiere?
I will say it didn't play out exactly like the way it played out for you, but yes, I was also scheduled to go to the press screening, and then I found out I was going to the premiere, which I was very, very excited for. Having grown up on the movies and then getting to take my best friend Christian along with me to the premiere, it was really an honor to be there because I've known him for 25 years. He was my best friend since college, and we really bonded in those early days, getting to know each other over the Indiana Jones movies. So I couldn't think of a better person. He was literally the first person I thought of to invite, and he was super excited to get to go with me and be there for that moment. It's just kind of brought everything full circle, both for the franchise and for our friendship. So it was just an amazing night overall.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
That's awesome.
All right. Now we have this thing every summer. Our summers are just so busy with work and then the podcast and the YouTube. It's just bananas. And I love going out because whenever I call Sarah to check in, she always tells me good news. So she's not under pressure. Whenever I gotta go to work, I'm gonna call her right after my job, and she's gonna deliver good news. And you know what? It never fails. She always says, "Guess what just happened?" And this time around, I called her up, and she said, "Oh, yeah, no good news today." And cut to 5 minutes later on, "We just got an email. We just got an email."
So you finished work a little too early.
Yeah, yes. Had I continued the job 5 minutes longer,
Yes.
then that ritual would have continued.
Yeah.
And this was just amazing because we had just gone to the Willow world premiere last November, and we like, okay, I'm jonesing, no pun intended, for another world premiere.
Yeah. So exciting.
So was it more exciting for you to relay the news to me or to see that email? Because I know how much you love relaying good news.
I think it was equal. I saw the inbox, announcement. I'm like, oh my gosh, your heart stops, your breath gets caught in your throat a little bit. And then I was like, then I have to call Richard back about this. It's really exciting.
All right, so now let's jump
Yes,
ahead
let's
to
go to-
that night on June 14th in Hollywood, California. Red carpets, people all dressed up, more
Yeah.
indie cosplayers than you'd ever see at a Indiana Jones celebration. My goodness. So Mike, tell us about your June 14th evening up until the movie.
Sure. Let's see. I would have checked in, I think, around 6:00 p.m. I want to say, and walked down. So you guys have done this a few times, but the way that we enter into these premieres is we go down like an alleyway that's adjacent to the red carpet, so you could kind of
Yes.
peek around some of the what they call like the step and repeat wallpaper type backdrops that they have for the actors, and you peek around those and you can see like who's talking to the media where.
So it's more of a maroon carpet, not so much a red
Right,
carpet.
yeah, but really oddly, my very fortunate timing when I entered that red carpet area was literally the first people I saw when I entered into that area were Harrison Ford and Callista Flockhart. They were like standing right there in the middle in front of that big display that was the Dial of Destiny itself with the Indiana Jones logo underneath it, and then right next to that was the pen where they had all the Indiana Jones cosplayers, and they were mostly Indiana Jones the character, but there were other characters like scattered among them. Like I saw a couple short rounds. There was one mutt that we interacted with later on, here and there. I think there was a Sala or two, but yeah, it was just great to watch Harrison Ford get, see those people for the first time and briefly interact with them as well as I kind of started to make my way down the red carpet. And then on my way down, I spotted a couple other cast members from the film. At the very end of the carpet was a display of several costumes from the movie. They had Indy, they had Helena Shaw, who is the Phoebe Waller-Bridge character, and they had Sala, the John Rhys Davies character. And it was very cool to see those. I think I had seen those costumes at D23 Expo last summer, but it was
right.
great to, or I don't know if they had Sala then, but it was great to see them up close again. Anyway, and they also had the Dial of Destiny itself, the prop from the movie, which I had seen one of the replicas down at Walt Disney World, but this was much more detailed. It was I believe the actual prop used in the movie, and they had the watch that Indiana Jones wears in the film, and of course, the fedora and everything. So great, fun display at the end of the carpet there, and that's where a lot of the guests were gathering and kind of being corralled as they waited to go into the theater, and that's where you could also stand and watch some of the other celebrities make their way down the rest of the carpet and make their way into the theater. So that's where I was standing, where I saw Steven Spielberg come in and a couple other cast members from the film. That really, really tall guy whose name escapes me.
Right.
Yeah, that big
Yeah,
Nazi. That guy's, he's like
He's
10
Yeah.
feet tall.
huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If he's an inch, he's 10 feet tall.
Uh-huh.
And he's
Right.
as wide as a Subaru.
Yeah.
This guy is a powerful machine.
Yeah. So that's where we saw a few other of the celebrities. You want me to continue into the theater?
Yeah, before you go there, let's
Yeah,
weave,
let's
let's
go.
weave in some of our
Yeah.
stories
Sure.
up until
Yes.
that point.
Yeah.
So, Sarah.
So we came a little later than you, and we weren't allowed into that area of seeing the props and costumes because we came a little
Oh.
too late.
Yeah, they
But-
were trying to usher everyone into
Yeah.
the theater.
Yeah, so another one of those fun, quirks about the alleyway that you go down if you're not a star is like there's tons of cast members going, move along, move along, move along, like every other second. And you're like, no, but
And
I want
Doing
to
it, in a,
document this in my head.
doing it in a very Disney with a smile. Move
Yeah,
along, move
yeah.
along.
So it's like, but we did see George Lucas.
Lucas.
And of course his wife.
Yeah, Melody Hobson.
Yeah.
He was the only one on the red carpet.
Mm-hmm. At
And
that point.
I really wanted to yell out, Mr. Lucas, but he's like 79 years old. I didn't want to start yelling at him, and that was maybe just disrespectful. And I don't normally get caught up in my head like that. Normally I just go for it, but I didn't want to scare the man.
Right. Yeah, but it was really cool. We saw him quite a bit, and then Phoebe Waller-Bridge was
Yeah.
being interviewed. We
And
saw her.
At this point, they were telling us, "Oh, please move along." It's like, George Lucas is standing 10 feet away. Just know right now, I will not be moving along. Okay. 'Cause I need to get some pictures, some video, and it's George Lucas. I'm going to stare until he goes around that bend and I can't see him any longer.
But we also saw George Lucas interact with Imagineer Tony
Baxter.
So they took a picture together. We saw that.
Yeah, if you look at one of our videos, I'm asking one of the Disney employees, hey, can you move that guy with the Imagineer jacket out of my way? Guy turns around, oh, it's Tony Baxter.
Yeah.
But still, Tony, could you move to the side, please?
And then we also saw him meet Huy Quan.
Yes.
So short round.
Oh, nice.
What a great ambassador for fandom.
Mm-hmm.
I love ambassadors for fandom, and he is just that.
Yeah.
He's always energetic. He loves talking to the fans. He never says the line, I don't know, I just did it because of the paycheck. I got paid. Right. He will never say that, and God love him for that.
Yeah.
So love that. So then they kept saying, guys, the movie's gonna start at 6:30 and it's 6:15 now.
And we're like, it's never gonna start on time.
Never.
It never does.
They always start 30 to 45 minutes late.
Right.
But to jump ahead, they started exactly 6:30.
Because we got a surprise, but...
Yep, up until then.
Yeah.
Okay, so we walked into the lobby, and there's 100. Remember that scene in Raiders when Indiana Jones is running through the streets of Cairo and sees all these baskets? Which one is Marion? That was like us. We round the corner, and there's Indiana Joneses everywhere.
Yeah.
And instead of tipping them over, we just give them all high fives.
Yeah, right. and they went for a group picture, too, which you jumped in on.
Yeah, and that was the only one that had a whip.
Yeah.
That had a whip that I could... The other whips were all bound up. I guess I got through security and no one noticed, so I was cracking my whip. And Mike, I think later on, toward the end of the evening, I hit you with my whip. And if I didn't, I'm sorry. I was trying to get your attention.
Totally understandable, yeah.
The Disney social media were taking pictures. I haven't looked to see where that picture ended up.
Oh, I don't. Yeah, it
we'll
was
find
definitely social media, like Lucasfilm or Disney. Yeah.
Okay, so at that point, we go into the theater. All right, Mike, take us from there.
Yeah.
Just commenting on Huy Quan, who you mentioned, I was trying to be professional and not geek out over any of the, creative types or actors that I saw. But I had it in my head, if I encountered Huy Quan, I was going to ask him for a selfie. But sadly, I never crossed his path throughout the evening. I just really wanted to meet him because I'm such a big fan, of his two big roles when I was a kid. And then now I'm really happy that he's had this resurgence in Hollywood. But we similarly entered the theater. We saw all the cosplayers. We made our way down into the Dolby auditorium and sat down. And speaking of another person that you mentioned a little bit earlier, as we were sitting there, I had an aisle seat and somebody tapped me on the shoulder and asked me, where did you get that popcorn? Because I had the bucket of popcorn that they were handing out, and it was Tony Baxter.
Oh. And
I said, oh, you got to go back to the lobby. They're handing out popcorn and sodas if you want them. So he found out where to get his popcorn from me. But yeah.
You didn't say, Mr. Baxter, you sit down, let me get it for you.
I should have. But yeah, he was wearing that very, very cool Imagineer crew jacket for having designed the Indiana Jones Adventure attraction at Disneyland. So it was great to see that up close. I was pointing at it to my friend Christian, who loves that ride and loves Indiana Jones in general. So that was a great moment as well. And then, we were just kind of playing celebrity spotting in the theater until it came time for the presentation to begin.
I was like looking to talk to people and stuff, but like they were turning the lights down, they were dimming, they were like, all right, guys, this is like starting at 6:30. I'm looking at my watch. I'm like, man, why are they starting so early? So then we all get seated. And before the film, this is when, is it James Mangold came out first, the director. And then he comes and he introduces George Lucas, Steven Spielberg, Kathleen Kennedy, and Frank Marshall, and they all come on stage we're 3 rows back.
Yeah.
You and I were like 3 rows back. We're very, very close to the stage. And so there they are right there. And it was really exciting. And then he announced, of course, the stars of the film, which all of them came out. And then Harrison Ford came out last. And he was put in the middle. I was like, come on, Harrison Ford, come over to our side of the stage. I was like, because this is my first time seeing, well, not in person, my first time seeing him, but seeing him that evening.
Yeah. And apparently they could have used one more rehearsal.
Oh, yes.
Because the
yes.
actors, and we were like, where did we stand? Sala came out like 10 minutes before they introduced him.
That's right. Yeah, he was just standing there, like, kind of looking like a lost puppy.
Yeah, John Rhys Davies is at the other end of the stage. You're like, James, look over there.
And he forgot, James Mangold forgot to list the name of the kid.
Yes.
Yeah,
played,
Ethan
I'm not sure
Bergua Isidore.
Yes. Ethan.
Yeah, he played Teddy.
Mm-hmm. Right, yeah, Teddy came running out at the end.
Was I left on the editing room floor?
Right.
Is there a reason why you're not introducing me?
Yeah. But then we get the most exciting moment of our lives when, is it James Mangold who says, "Oh, but we couldn't do this without the glue that keeps
I think it was Spielberg.
this film together." Oh, yeah, Spielberg. That makes sense. Yeah. Without the glue that keeps this together. And here is John Williams and the orchestra that they recorded to play the music for the Dial of Destiny. And so the curtain behind them opens, and there is John Williams 10 feet away from me, it seemed like. I've never been this close to him before. Like, we've seen John Williams many, many times since 99 in concert at the Hollywood Bowl, but we've always been, like, way back. I mean, you can never get those box seats right up close.
Yeah. Is that John Williams or Michael Giacchino?
Oh,
I
yeah.
can't tell.
Oh my God. So I like screamed out loud. And then Richard, meanwhile, all the stars are like making their way off the stage, but Harrison Ford is making the way off our side of the stage. So you, Richard.
I'm yelling, Harrison! Guys want him to look over at our camera
Right.
and wave.
Yeah.
And John Williams turns around and shushes me.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, shh. I want that written on my tombstone. John Williams shushed me.
He did.
June 14th, 2023. And everyone in our row all turned around and looked at me. It's like, yeah, that's right. He shushed me. What did you do today?
But then, of course, we all respectfully sat down and we just enjoyed the hell out of the next 10 minutes, which was a mini concert of John Williams conducting Mutt's theme from The Crystal Skull, which is a fun little ditty of a theme. And then John Williams comes and speaks to us, and he is just so eloquent. This man is amazing, and I just love when he talks. And he explained how he created Helena's theme, which is the Phoebe Waller-Bridge character, and like what the inspiration was, and then the orchestra played that theme.
But oddly enough, he said, okay, now I'm going to play Helena's theme or Helena's theme.
Oh, he did? Okay.
No one could never get that right. Even in the movie, they go back and forth. Helena.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oops. Okay.
And then after that, he played the Superman theme.
No. He played the Raiders March.
Yes. All right. So
yeah, what did
when
you
the
think?
curtain goes up, did you get like Celebration 2017 vibes?
I will say that I feel incredibly spoiled about having seen John Williams, like you said, as many times that I have, because I too have seen him at the Hollywood Bowl a number of times, and then they've been doing this thing at Star Wars Celebration and at other, I feel like, has it happened at D23 as well? Is it only a Celebration? But either way, they do this thing where John Williams and the orchestra will show up for a surprise concert. So I have gotten to see that a few times as well. So yeah, one of my absolute favorite artists in any category, musician or otherwise, in the history of, my life, appreciating art and movies and music, and just being in his presence and getting to watch him conduct the orchestra and conduct some of my favorite themes from movies. It's always a pleasure, and this was no exception. And again, my friend Christian, who was sitting next to me, is a musician in his own right. He plays the piano. He studied music composition, and he got interested in that because of John Williams. So it was an amazing experience for him as well, who hasn't, he hasn't gone to all the Star Wars celebrations and gotten to see that kind of thing before. But yeah, definitely a super memorable moment that night.
And that answers the question, why did they start the film at exactly 6:30 p.m.?
Yep, because John Williams had a hard out bedtime, I bet.
He says, guys, you can start the film whenever you want, but at 7 p.m., I'm out.
Yeah.
Lots of octogenarians participating in the film premiere that evening.
All right, so now let's move on to the film.
Yes.
So let's tell everyone, all the Skywalkers right now, that we're going to review the film. We're going to break it down, and there's going to be spoilers. So let's go ahead and roll in Rob Dellinger's spoiler theme.
Attention Skywalkers.
Attention, Skywalkers.
Spoilers ahead.
Warning! Warning!
Attention Skywalkers. Spoilers ahead.
Warning! Warning!
Spoilers ahead. Spoilers ahead.
All right, so before we go into our reactions and thoughts, Sarah, go ahead and read the plot.
Oh, okay. The plot of Dial of Destiny. So the film starts in 1944. Indiana Jones and his colleague, Basil Shaw. Is it Basil or Basil?
Basil.
Basil. Okay, Basil Shaw, who's played by Toby Jones. They infiltrate a Nazi camp and they prevent Nazi Jürgen Voller, who is played by Mads Mikkelsen, from obtaining a mysterious dial known as the Antikythera. I'm just going to say it fast, like Phoebe Waller-Bridge did. The Antikythera. Okay, so fast forward to 1969, and Indy is uneasy over the fact that the U.S. government has recruited former Nazis to help beat the Soviet Union in the competition to make it to space. And he's forced into retirement from his teaching position because of his opposition to the practice. Now, this is when Basil's daughter, Helena, I'm going to call her Helena. That's how I say it. Helena Shaw, who is Indy's goddaughter, and this is the Phoebe Waller-Bridge character. She shows up at his university, and the two then commence this journey for the Dial of Destiny. But they have different reasons for doing it. Like, Phoebe seems to want the money for it, and Indy, you know, he always wants things to belong in a museum, right?
It belongs in a
Yes.
museum.
Exactly. So meanwhile, Voller is a NASA member and ex-Nazi. He's involved with the Apollo moon landing program, the Operation Paperclip program. He wants to make the world into a better place as he sees fit by obtaining the Dial of Destiny, and that pits him up against Indy once again.
Okay, so there's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah.
All right, so Mike, give us your reactions to Dial of Destiny.
I will say that my first reaction, the first thing that I said to my friends, because I was walking out with Christian, my buddy, and do you know Jordy from Disney Examiner? He was with us as well, walking out. And I said to them, this movie had two really brilliant ideas, and they both happen in the final, like, 30 to 40 minutes of the movie. And we're in full spoiler mode now, right?
Full spoiler
Yep.
mode, yes.
Okay. Those two brilliant ideas to me were an ex-Nazi who wants to travel back in time to kill Hitler because he thinks he can do a better job at being Hitler than Hitler did. I had never seen that before. You hear about people wanting to travel back in time to kill Hitler all the time, but it's never a Nazi who wants to do it because he could be, he thinks Hitler didn't do a good enough job. I just thought that was so brilliant. When that came up in the movie, I was beaming at what a smart choice that was. And then the other thing that I absolutely loved about this movie was the climactic action sequence, which is Nazis versus Romans, which again, something I've never seen, and I just thought it was amazing. I was just enraptured by that whole sequence. Loved it, absolutely loved it. So I would say the final 40 minutes I loved, and I also really liked the beginning. I think that's going to be controversial because it does utilize the de-aging technology to bring Harrison Ford back to his prime. It's the first time we've really gotten to see Indiana Jones in action during World War II, because all the other movies take place before the United States has entered the war. The original trilogy takes place before 1941, and this opening sequence of Dial of Destiny is 1944. It's at the tail end of World War II, and it's just really fun to see him during the war, still going up against Nazis, still pursuing these artifacts, but in a different context. Yes, they do use the de-aging, and to me, it worked probably 90% of the time. There were a couple shots where I could see the seams where it was getting a little bit uncanny valley, like you would say for like Luke Skywalker in The Mandalorian. But for the most part, to me, that whole sequence worked. It was really fun. The action was well staged. Both, Harrison Ford and whoever they used as his doubles, they did a really good job at bringing that character to life in that context.
His double was played by Shia LaBeouf. Go on.
Yeah. Well, I know one of them in the credits. I noticed one of them was Anthony Ingruber, who campaigned for the role of young Han Solo
Oh,
in Solo: A
Oh.
Star Wars Story, and also played young Harrison Ford in the movie Age of Adeline. He's just a guy, he's an actor who looks a lot like Harrison Ford. So it makes sense that they would enlist in that part. But I wanted to say, I also enjoyed Toby
Jones?
Toby
no,
Jones.
Toby Jones. Thank you. Toby Jones as this new character who's another friend of Indy's that we get to know a bit during this opening sequence. And we see him a little bit later on too, but enjoyed that character quite a bit. The only thing I will say negative is that the middle section of the movie dragged for me. I think it could have been cut down. This movie's, I think it's close to 2.5 hours long.
2 hours, 34 minutes.
Yeah. I think it could have been closer to the 2-hour mark like the other ones, and probably would be better for it, in my opinion. But that was really the only downside for me. I enjoyed it otherwise.
Now, do you think the de-aging is going to be controversial? It wasn't AI, it was de-aging, which I don't think that is going to be a hurdle that needs to be left over for all these strikes.
I wouldn't say it's controversial because of the whole AI debate, but I know that, the de-aging technique has been controversial in the past just because I think people don't like the way it looks, there's an argument that it never quite looks 100% realistic, which I think it just keeps getting closer and closer all the time. So as soon as it reaches that point where it's 100% convincing, I personally don't have a problem with using it. I say go for it. Why not?
Oh, I loved it when they used it in Rise of Skywalker. Good to see a very young Carrie Fisher and Mark Hamill during those training
Yeah.
sequences. I was all over that. And I thought the de-aging for Harrison Ford here was impeccable. I thought, are they using cut scenes from Raiders?
Mm-hmm.
Now, going back to what you said, that the other films took place before World War II, when did Last Crusade take place? Because Indy did meet Hitler.
Oh,
So
that's right.
so the United States doesn't enter World War II until 1941 after Pearl Harbor. But Last Crusade, I think, is 1938. So I think the war had started by that point, but the US was not involved.
Okay, gotcha. That'd be funny if Indy had met Hitler in this film, and Hitler said, "Didn't I sign your book at one point?"
Yeah.
All right,
That would've been great.
good rundown there, Mike. Now, Sarah.
Oh my.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so we're coming off this discussion of the de-aged Harrison Ford. I thought that was incredible. And the first 20 to 30 minute sequence of this film, which is Harrison Ford in the 1940s on motorcycles, on trains, on top of trains, like I was like brought back to my middle school days. I was like, this is Indiana Jones. Oh my God. And they even had an artifact, like before they get to the Antikythera, which is the Dial of Destiny, they had an artifact, the saber that was used to slash Christ, like Jesus Christ, like in his side. So that, yeah, go ahead, Mike.
So I want to add something just really quickly, a tangent. There's a Indiana Jones comic book series. I think it's called Indiana Jones and the Spear of Destiny.
Oh,
That the artifact they're pursuing in that is the blade that cut Jesus Christ on the cross. So
Right.
continue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They use that a lot in the DC comics.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So already I'm like, okay, this is when Indy is at his best, when he's after an artifact that we all can relate to, like the Ark of the Covenant or
Holy
the
Grail.
Holy Grail, like things that we've heard of in other,
In Sunday
theology
school.
in Sunday
Didn't you ever go to
school.
Sunday school?
Exactly. And I went to all kinds of Sunday school, so I know all about that stuff. But yeah, so I was like, oh yes. And then it quickly changed to the Dial of Destiny, which was not as interesting to me, but I I liked that nod to that. So that was an amazing sequence. I also loved Harrison Ford's, in 1969, his introduction. So what a dichotomy, what a separation from the very first introduction of Indiana Jones in Raiders of the Lost Ark, where he's,
Steps out
man
from
in
the
the
shadows.
prime of his life, steps
Yeah.
out from the shadows. And then here we get this shot of him rising up, and he's naked, 80-year-old man, Harrison Ford, like naked almost.
Sarah needed one of those Sizzler bibs. She was drooling.
I was laughing because it was just such a difference, and yet here's Harrison Ford. I mean, he's in good shape for however old he is.
He's
and
80.
I know. I was like, wow. All right. It was pretty hilarious. And I also loved some of these other tongue-in-cheek moments. Like, we see Indy back again as a professor teaching a class. It's not the 1930s anymore. He's in the 1960s. He's not a cute young teacher. He's old, and all the kids are like not paying any attention to him. They are bored out of their
nobody's
minds.
drawing "I love you" on their
No,
eyelash. On their eyelids
they're so
anymore.
despondent, and it's so hilarious.
They're writing
to me.
"Please stop talking" on their eyelids.
Yeah. So that was fun. And then I just want to give a huge mention. You know how I mentioned how you can see Harrison Ford's acting career throughout these indie films? Well, in this film, I particularly noticed his emotion and the way he played emotional scenes. These emotional character beats with other characters were they were the best. Like, I mean, the ending with Marion, he plays that scene, and you can he's just emoting. He's like, oh, this man, he's like emoting, and I got all tingly.
All Twitter-pated.
All Twitter-pated. But I do have to say that my gripe with the film was that all these great emotional character moments, well, there weren't that many. There was like 2. They were very few and far between all the action scenes. And so I feel like they really could have leaned into some of this emotional stuff, which we love from like TV shows now, right?
Mhm.
Where you can really delve into these emotions of characters, and less action. In fact, one action scene they could have chopped in half. The one where Helena and the boy Teddy, right, and Indy were in that motorized cart. I was like looking at my watch. This is still going on. What's up with this? Like that was a major scene.
This was the best constructed golf cart I'd ever seen.
Yeah.
This thing was shot up. It was diced up. It had gone through the river at one point.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the 6-minute sequence that they showed to us at Star Wars Celebration in London this year. And I remember watching it there and thinking, I just kind of had a lukewarm response to it.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, it's not representative of the best parts of the movie. It's kind of a forgettable action scene.
I agree. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that would be my gripe with it. But I also have to say that Indy would be great at escape rooms today. Yeah. And I, like you, Mike, I really liked the last 20 minutes. And I liked the whole conceit of Indy meeting one of his like heroes, archaeological heroes, Archimedes. Like, how cool was that? So that was a great idea.
And Sarah kept saying, "I thought you were an owl."
Yes. From The Sword and the Stone. Yes. I love it.
And they even went so far as to have him speaking, well, what language would that have been? Ancient Greek or Latin or whatever it
Right.
was. But I was just thinking, like, why is the Grail Knight in Last Crusade speaking English? You know?
Oh, good call. Good call.
Mm.
Nice. All right. So those are my big thoughts. Richard, what about you?
All right, is everyone sitting down?
Yeah.
All right. I should start off by saying I need to see this again to really fairly judge it, because
Me too.
there's so much was happening, and my adrenaline was pumping so high from seeing a new Indiana Jones film up on the big screen that I know there was a lot of information put out there that I had missed. And later on down the film, it's like, wait a minute, what is this now? What is that? And I'm sure they had gone over it and I just missed it. So you're really gonna see this movie twice, because they do shovel a lot of exposition and a lot of stuff at you very, very quickly. But for initial thoughts, I thought it was very fun. It's an Indiana Jones film, so you're gonna have that roller coaster ride, which it is. It was very nostalgic. The first scene with the de-aged Harrison Ford that was like, what, 20, 25 minutes?
Mhm.
I loved every second of that. I thought that was such a good time and pure Indiana Jones. But, all right, when it comes time for the MacGuffin, you really had to pay attention to this Antiquathera. Antikythera. See, they say it's, and you're like, wait a minute, I need subtitles. What did they say? And by the time you catch on to what they're saying, 20 minutes of the movie had already passed.
Or they'd already explained it, and you're like, wait, but you're back on, what was that?
Exactly. And then Andy kept saying, doesn't this cause like a fissure in time? Like, okay, now, what is a fissure in time? I don't know what that is. I know what the Ark of the Covenant is. They explain the Sankara stones pretty well. Holy Grail, I know exactly what that is. The Crystal Skull, it's an alien skull. I get it. Now they're talking about the the Den of Antiquities. And that really, really threw me. And even to this moment, I didn't know what that was. Well, right before the show, I did a little bit of a deep dive on this because I still don't know what this is. Okay, when you want to boil it down, it's the MacGuffin. It is the dial of time.
Of time, yeah, time travel.
Yeah, I think at one point the Flash had raced in and said, "Oh, I need to borrow that for my movie." Now, I looked it up, and this is what it is. It's the oldest known example of an analog computer used to predict astronomical positions in eclipses decades in advance.
Wow.
Okay, why is that important? I don't know. It was designed and constructed by Greek scientists and has been dated to about 87 BC. Its construction relied on theories of astronomy and mathematics. Okay, what is this? I still don't know why this is important.
Well, so that's what I guess it is in reality, right? So this is based on a real artifact.
Yes.
Right? But they kept saying, and in the film they kept like beating into us that yes, this is all like a scientific thing.
All
like
based on mathematics.
Based on mathematics, right. Mathematics is what created this, but then they went the extra step of, but it creates a fissure in time, and it's basically a time travel device.
And
my understanding is it's not creating the fissure in time.
Oh.
It's just telling you when and where it will appear.
Oh.
That was my understanding from the movie.
Huh.
Having only seen it the once.
So when they put the dials together, they could actually figure out when a fissure would appear, I guess.
Yes. That was my understanding walking out of the movie. Yeah.
Wow. See, I did not get that.
Okay, for anyone listening right now, including myself, who doesn't know what a fissure in time is, what is a fissure in time?
Basically, I think what that is like any time travel. So you have time. Time is relative now, right? So you can fold time. So basically, like, I'm doing this badly. So okay, my palms are time, and then I'm folding it to touch my fingertips together.
Haven't you ever seen Quantum Leap, Richard?
No,
yes.
No, I have not.
Yes.
I've never seen Quantum Leap.
So basically, my right fingertip is today, the present. My left fingertip is Archimedes in Greece, and then they touch.
Okay, so now I get it.
Okay.
Now, what?
You needed a visual aid.
Scott Bakula balling up a ball of twine.
Or Indiana Jones. Indy, use your hands.
Use your
okay?
whip. Use your whip.
String theory, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I had a big problem with this because I didn't understand it. I just kept going, okay, it's the MacGuffin. It has something to do with time travel. Okay, I get it.
Right.
But to go back to the research I've done on the Den of Antiquities, Antikythera, all known fragments of this dial are now kept at the National Archaeological Museum in Athens. So if you want to see what the Dial of Destiny is, go to Athens.
Guess what? It's in a museum.
It's in a museum. And there's reconstructions and replicas of this dial.
That's amazing.
Now that you mention it, is this the only Indiana Jones artifact that you can actually go and see the real version of in real life?
I
think
believe
it might be.
I think so, because Sankara stones, isn't that like totally made up?
Yeah.
As far as I know. We don't have the Ark of the Covenant. We don't have the Holy Grail.
Yeah.
Okay,
wow.
so now I understand this more than I did 5 minutes ago.
Okay.
And they could have done a much better job, or just don't go there.
Right.
As soon as they started talking about time travel and dials of destiny, we all thought, at least I did, about time travel. And it's like, oh no, 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 no. No more multiverses, no more time travel.
See, I felt the same way. I will say that I am also exhausted about time travel and multiverses, especially. But the way it was executed worked for me. I was really worried that they were gonna time travel back into the 30s, and we were gonna get like Indy visiting his old adventures, like in Avengers Endgame
Yeah.
when they go and
Oh.
visit
Yeah.
like moments from the past. I was super worried about halfway through the movie that was going to happen. So the fact that they make a mistake and travel way further into the past, I actually loved that about it.
Yeah, I had a great time with the ending when you had the Nazis fighting the Romans,
Mhm.
and the Romans thinking these planes are dragons.
These Roman spears into the side of a plane. That's so funny.
It's
You
hilarious.
don't even see that.
When I rewatch the movie, when I rewatch it this weekend coming up, I am super looking forward to that scene in particular. Like, I
Mhm.
just can't wait to see that part again.
And just seeing Indiana Jones speaking to Archimedes and looking around, and the acting in this scene is one of the best examples of Harrison Ford acting in the whole Indyverse, because he's looking around going, I cannot believe this. And we've all seen films where characters are transported back and forth in time and they accept it like that. They just, okay, now I know where I am, I can move on. But I think all of us, if we were to go back in time, we'd be going, okay, someone press the pause button, because I need to get my head wrapped around this. That's exactly what Harrison Ford was doing. He needed to get his head wrapped around what he was saying. He knew exactly where he was. He knew exactly who he was going to meet. And he just needed that time to process it. He did not accept it right off the bat, like you see in most movies, and I really hate that. Hey, we're gonna move things along. Just okay, Marty, you're back in 1955. Go. So I love that scene there. That could have been 90% of the movie, and we would have all been very, very happy.
I actually said that in my written review on laughingplace.com that I wished I didn't say what it was, but I wished that twist, the time travel twist, had happened earlier in the movie. I think they could have time traveled halfway through the movie, and I think I would have enjoyed it.
Oh, very
Way
much.
more.
So,
Had a
very
lot of
much
fun
so.
in Roman times.
All right, now I only have 25 more minutes of critique. Okay. Back when we saw the trailer at D23 Expo, I had a lot of trouble getting my head wrapped around this 80-year-old Harrison Ford riding through subways on horses and on motorcycles, and come on, this is I will not be able to believe this. But when you're actually seeing the movie, you didn't care.
Mm-mm.
It wasn't an 80-year-old actor. This was Indiana Jones. He's invincible. He can do these kinds of things. And I never once thought, oh, come on. There's no way this 80-year-old guy is going to be doing this. You were right along with the adventure. Just like when most people thought, oh, I can never accept Alden Ehrenreich as Han Solo. 2 minutes into the film, it's like, okay, this is Han Solo. I'm so into this movie. You're so into everything he does, everything that Indiana Jones is doing, because he's Indiana Jones.
And Harrison Ford.
And Harrison Ford, yes. in the end, when we see Marion shows up, I kind of felt like this was a mirror image of the Han and Leia story with Kylo Ren.
Mm.
They had a ne'er-do-well son, and the two of them got back together again.
Aw.
I thought this is a good mirror reflection.
I had not made that connection, but I think you are very right about that.
And one of the best moments, calling back one of the best scenes ever that we always recite to each other.
So where doesn't it hurt? Here.
Oh, but it's reversed. Oh, it's so sweet. Oh.
And-
I cried.
Yes.
In the
And
yeah.
once again, it was a mirror reflection of the "I love you, I know" from
Mhm.
Empire and then Jedi, when
Yeah.
Han and Leia both got to say "I love you" and both got to say
Oh.
"I know."
I didn't put that together. Oh man.
So that really, I had so many emotions over that, and just because I know that you were crying.
Oh, I
would say-
was. Absolutely, I was
I
crying.
think all of us were in the
That made me
theater.
cry.
We were all crying. I'm sure Harrison Ford was crying too, because this
Yeah.
was a very emotional scene, because in the beginning of the film we saw just a telegram from Marion Ravenwood's lawyer that she wants a divorce.
Yeah.
And
Sad.
now here they are in the end. And those two kids, well, you know what? I think very highly of their relationship moving forward.
Yes.
So that is my reaction. But you know what? Let's go into Mutt.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm sure we all walked into this going, what are they gonna do about Mutt? So, Mike, what did you think about the resolution of the Mutt character, and tell us what happened?
So we learn pretty early on in the movie that Mutt went to war. He enlisted in the army and went to war. I'm assuming that meant the Korean War, because World War II would have been long over by that point. So he went to war and died in the war. And that's kind of what has caused the rift between Indy and Marion. He's not, they don't really dwell on it that much, but it does give Indy a reason to be kind of downtrodden and lonely at the beginning of this movie. So I think it was, knowing that Shia LaBeouf likely wasn't coming back to be in this movie, it was an interesting way to approach the character and to give Indy a different motivation for what he's going through. And then another thing that I started to worry about once the time travel element was introduced was that that Mutt's character might be revived via time travel by the end of the movie.
Mike,
I did start to worry about that, and thankfully they did not go in that direction.
Do not say
Marion
Mutt's
Indy.
name 3 times, okay?
Right. Shia will appear with a paper bag on his head that says, "I am not famous." Yeah, but I thought it was well handled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They couldn't just gloss over this. They had to say
Right.
something. And since he wasn't in this film, thank goodness. I say thank goodness because after all the negative things he said about Kingdom
Of the
Crystal Skull, yeah. So you know what? Just get him out of there now. All right. So, what do you think about the new characters now? Yeah, we were introduced to a whole bunch of new characters. So, give me a favorite character.
I gotta say, I really liked Helena, Phoebe Waller-Bridge's character. I really enjoyed her in Solo, A Star Wars Story, another connection back to that. And I thought she did a great job here. She's really funny. She's really entertaining to watch. And I will say another thing that I thought was interesting about the dynamic between Indy and Helena was that Indy sees her as a bit of a protege in a way, because she is his goddaughter.
Right.
She's the daughter of the Toby Jones character, but I think he's a little worried about her because she's not an Indiana Jones type archaeologist. She's more of a Belloc type archaeologist
Fortune
who's
and glory.
only in it for the money. Yeah, exactly. So you can see, I really love that idea that he needs to kind of steer her in the right direction. I think that she has a nice arc for that reason in the movie.
Okay, Sarah.
I'm trying to think about this because actually, Helena Shaw was. I wanted to really like her. Like, she was built up like Harrison Ford at D23 Expo. The thing he said on stage, the 2 minutes that Indiana Jones film was given, he's like, and this woman, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, she's amazing, So I was looking forward to some like indie replica almost, but as a female or something like that, like I was very excited. And then the character relationship, but I felt like her character was very uneven in this film. I felt like she was a mercenary at some points, but then she had some emotional moments with Indy at other points. But it seemed like in each scene, her attitude toward Indy and even the Dial of Destiny like shifted, and they were different. And the way it was put together, I don't know if I still like Phoebe Waller-Bridge's acting, but the way it was put together, it just felt very uneven to me. And I think I just need to see it again because once again, when you're watching it for the first time, you're trying to understand the story as well as take in all of these emotional moments and things. So I think now that I understand the story, I'll be able to really like figure out her character more.
I would say if we didn't just watch Raiders, I think I would like Phoebe Helena Shaw a little bit better, but after seeing Marion again, it's like, okay, you got a lot to live up to following in her footsteps. She was like Princess Leia. she wasn't a damsel in distress. She was very strong, very feisty, always thinking ahead. And I think this, if Marion was at a 10, then Helena Shaw was at like a 4.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And Willie Ames was at a 2.
Oh, right.
Willie Scott.
Yeah.
Elsa.
Yeah, so-
Elsa was at a 5.
Yeah. And they had a couple other interesting characters, but they like killed them off right away, and I was sad. So I feel like all my eyes were on Indy on this one.
Okay.
I don't really have a new favorite character.
I gotta add in that Kate Blanchett from Crystal Skull. I liked her character.
Yes. Oh, I loved her
I thought
character.
she was very, very powerful.
And she had a great theme.
Oh yeah, but nothing's gonna beat Marion.
Right. I was very surprised, now that you mention it, that they killed off the CIA character
Yes.
lady.
Yeah. Oh, she was so
early on.
good.
She was great. I'm very surprised by that. Yeah,
Well-
that and Antonio Banderas.
Yeah,
too.
it's like, hey everyone,
Oh,
there's
yeah.
there's Antonio Banderas. Get a good look at him, because now he's dead.
Yeah. That was sad.
We told everyone, spoilers.
hmm
All right, now so you don't have a
No, I don't. Yeah.
yeah. Well, okay,
My favorite character was Indiana Jones' emotional scenes.
okay. My favorite character was his whip, because he got a chance to use it more than he'd ever had since Raiders. And yeah, so I told you my perception on Helena Shaw,
Yes.
but Dr. Voller, played by Mads Mikkelsen, this was a confusing character, because when we were first introduced to him, he and Indy are fighting on the train, and he gets knocked off. One of those beams comes by, and he just get every bone in his body should have been shattered. Last time we'll ever see of him. Cut to 1969, and there he is again.
With
Like,
some scars.
I thought I saw maybe a Band-Aid. That's all I saw. But I needed something to say to tell us how he survived such a bone-shattering accident on top of that train.
I know what it is. Super soldier serum.
That had to have been it. Had to have been. Because I thought, wait a minute, is this a clone? Is this a relative of his? Something. Because I couldn't get. So when we saw him finally in the 1969 era, I couldn't get past the fact that no, this guy should be dead. When it comes to Teddy, the little short round sidekick, what did we need him for? Why?
To fly the plane. That was it.
Well, you know what, Helena, they could have rewritten a couple of pages so she flew the plane and get. I never understood why they needed him. Are they needing him the same way they need a short round to bring the kids in?
Either that or give Helena some more emotional beats, because she cares about the kid, and they showed that. Because otherwise she'd be like total mercenary, badass, and you wouldn't really see that emotional side to her.
And she kind of adopted him like the way Indy adopted Short Round. But
Yeah.
maybe if that was her actual son, okay, I see a little bit more there. But in every scene, it's like, we could have cut that. We could have cut that. When you start to edit a film as it's playing, that's not a good sign. So let's move on from the characters, because I think we're all in agreement that some characters worked, some characters didn't, some characters should have been dead. So Sarah, let's talk about your favorite aspect of any film, the soundtrack.
Yay, the music! Well, right away, in the very first opening moments of this new film, we get a theme from The Last Crusade, slowed down a little bit. So it's Belly of the Steel Beast from Last Crusade. And this is the theme that plays when they're using the big, the Steel
Tank?
Beast, the tank. Yes, the tank scene in Last Crusade. So I was like, oh, wow, amazing. We get callbacks right away. And
That's where Marcus and Henry Jr. Sr.
yes.
are being held.
Yeah, they're in the tank, and Indy's trying to get them out. You know,
Yeah,
he's
I-
running alongside.
I tried to do a Sean Connery, didn't work out.
I'm sorry, it's okay. I'm the one with the accents.
Yeah, I know,
yes.
I know. Okay.
All right, and then also there was a bit of scherzo for motorcycle and orchestra, which is from The Last Crusade, and that plays during Indy's Nazi encounters, which makes sense because this is when he and his father in The Last Crusade are running away from Nazis in that motorcycle in the sidecar.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that track. I honestly, instead of Mutt's theme, I wished that John Williams would have played Scherzo for motorcycle and orchestra. I
So
think
why did he play Mutt's theme?
I don't know. I don't know. But we were
I honestly didn't recognize it because I don't know the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull score as well as I do the other 3. So I had assumed when that started that it was from the new movie.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, that's Crystal Skull. I've been listening to the soundtracks like all week leading up. Yeah. But my favorite moment of the soundtrack had to have been in that opening sequence. There's a moment when Indy's on the train and he escapes and starts running on top of the Nazi train, and the music swells and you get the Indiana Jones theme for the first time, and our whole theater was like, yeah! We all started yelling and clapping, and that was like my favorite. And the Indy theme was joyously playing, and we had just heard it live and we're like, ah, amazing. Okay. So yeah, there we go. So I loved it.
Yeah, that's why I asked you that, because I didn't recognize any of the themes.
Yeah.
A couple of times you had nudged me and said, "Oh, this is from Crystal Skull. This is from Superman. This is from Raiders."
Superman. Yeah. I have an ear for that. Any other noticeable things that you guys noticed at all?
I think when I watch a movie for the first time, I tend not to pay too close attention to the score, but I will be buying, I'm sure I'll buy the soundtrack and listen to it separate from the movie. And then I'll try to, I honestly didn't notice The Belly of the Steel Beast, but Christian mentioned it after the movie. And I was like, I didn't even notice that. But he's, again, a music guy, so he picked it out. And I'll be listening for that the next time I see it. But I think I tend to let the score kind of disappear into the background when I'm watching a movie for the first time. But I'm a big fan of kind of analyzing it in the later period. Yeah, after I get the soundtrack and can listen to it at home.
Yeah, that makes sense. Nice.
All right, so Mike, when you were walking into the film, did you have a wish list? Something like, oh, I hope they do this. I hope they do that. I really want to see this.
I had a line. So I predicted at my birthday party in, let's see, this would have been maybe 2021. I predicted to all my friends that there would be a specific line in this movie because we knew it was in production at that point. And I thought this will be great. They can work this in. It'll wrap everything up perfectly. The final scene of the movie came up and I was like, this is it. It's going to happen. This is the perfect scene for it to happen. They basically recreated most of that scene. I thought Indiana Jones was going to say at one point, now it's the years, which would have been a reference back to the, it's not the years, it's the mileage line in Raiders of the Lost Ark. And now, of course, Indy is, 80 years old or something. So I thought that would have been a great joke. It did not happen, sadly, and I lost my bet.
What did you lose?
I don't think anything was actually at stake, but
okay.
I lost my dignity.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Nice. That's a great line. Oh.
All right, Sarah, what was your wish list?
Harrison Ford looking hot.
Check.
Check.
A semi-nude Harrison Ford?
I mean, sure. I'm here for it. So yeah, that also, I mean, I was looking forward to a great score, of course, and a fun MacGuffin and adventure. So we pretty much got all of that. Mm-hmm. There's, and again, let's watch the movie again. But yeah, mostly Harrison Ford. Anything, yay. I just love him.
Well, the trailer pretty much spoiled that because it's all Harrison Ford.
I know.
All right, my wish list was fan service. I love fan service. I love fan service so much, and I don't understand why people complain when there's too much fan service. Like it's the filmmakers nodding to the fans. I get it. I wish there had been some nods to, and maybe there were, to the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles. I'm rewatching it right now, but Sarah, this is the first time watching the Young Indy series on Disney Plus that was released in '92 on ABC TV. I wish there had been some kind of reference to the films, and maybe there was, and we just didn't notice it. But when we see the TV show right now, as we're rewatching it, maybe something will stick out. It's like, oh, Indy didn't mention Archimedes. Or you
guys know that Kingdom of the Crystal Skull has a Young Indy reference, right?
Yes.
You're aware of that.
Yeah, we got that when he says he met Pancho Villa.
Oh,
right?
Yes.
We haven't gotten to that episode of the Young Indy yet, but we saw the title for it. We're like, oh, the the scroll of what it's
Yeah.
about. Yeah.
I love the fact that they brought back Sala, but didn't rely too much on him.
This had me asking my friend what happened. Okay, so Sala in Dial of Destiny, Sala says that Indy helped him get to America during the war, which I'm assuming Sala meant World War II. But that leads me to the question, why wasn't Sala at Indy and Marion's wedding at the end of
Oh.
Kingdom of the Crystal Skull? Which I know John Rhys Davies was offered that cameo and turned it down because he didn't think it was as big of a part that Sala should have in the movie.
Oh, stop it, actors. Stop it. No more Dennis Lawson's. I'm going to be too bored being in The Force Awakens. No more. The part's not big enough. My trailer's not big enough. You know, tell me like he was stuck on the 405 freeway. That would be more acceptable. Oh, that's terrible.
I would have loved to see Short Round. I
Oh.
think everybody would have gotten a big kick out of that now that Huy Quan is back in the spotlight.
Mhm.
But they didn't work him in, sadly.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I know I said I love fan service, but maybe putting in too much would have been like Seinfeld, the last episode of Seinfeld. That
Right.
was like they should have called the whole episode fan service because they brought
Every
back every
character that had
single
ever appeared on
character
the show.
that these four
That
had
was such a weird
done something
ending.
very bad to.
Yeah.
It would have been fun to see Short Round, but maybe let's leave him for his own Disney Plus series, which they've been talking about,
Oh.
but who knows? And I know he's like, hey, tell me where to sign, and I'm there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm there. And I had heard rumors that Karen Allen was going to be in the film, but I kept closing up my computer every time I would see a spoiler. Like, I don't want to know this. But when she came up on stage at the premiere, it's like, okay, I guess you're in the film, Marion. And
That's funny because my friend Christian had avoided everything,
yeah.
didn't watch any of the trailers. And I was like, well, I guess you know that Sala's in the movie now because they brought out John Rhys
Well, he
Davies.
was in all the trailers with his famous.
Yeah, but he
give him
had
hell.
avoided all the trailers. So yeah,
Oh.
he didn't know anything.
Yeah,
going
I didn't
in.
know Marion was gonna be in there, but it
No.
was when she came up on stage, like,
We hoped.
dang, yes. In fact, when after the film, we were all talking in the lobby, and she like ran right by us.
Yeah. Yeah, she walked right
Yeah,
by.
She's much shorter than I thought she would have.
She is
would have
very,
been.
very small. Oh, she's tiny.
Yeah, she's very, very tiny. Now, the last shot of the movie is you get that fun retro iris in to Indy's fedora, and he grabs it out of the frame. What do you
that's
think
right.
that means?
I
Oh.
think it's just a hint that I first of all, I don't think we'll ever see Harrison Ford playing the character again, but I think that's just telling us at the end that Indy's adventures continue in the world that he lives in. We probably won't see them, but he's not done. He's not hanging up his hat just yet. Speaking of last shots, I wanted to talk about the very first shot, which, okay, first of all, it was very surprising to me that the Paramount logo is at the beginning of this movie. When that came up, I was like, oh, they put it there so they can have it transition
Mm.
into a mountain like it does at the beginning of all of the other four movies, but it doesn't do that. And I was like, why? You have it. It's there. I was totally baffled by that, and I would love to know the reasoning why.
Yeah, there's some things you've got to stick with.
It's totally.
Yeah.
It's such a.
Once again,
it's such a thing.
that's under fan service, but yet it works.
Oh yeah.
It's worked every single time.
It's that little nod to actually the super fans, because I don't think everyone who's watching the film is gonna make note of that.
Mm-hmm.
But us fans who just rewatched all of them, or
Right.
like that's a fun little thing.
Yeah.
Aw.
And I thought him Indy grabbing his fedora out of the frame was very. It was very reminiscent of him grabbing the hat off of Mutt
Yeah,
from
Yeah.
that too.
Crystal Skull
Mhm.
when he's putting the hat back on his head and Indy says, "Nope, still belongs to me."
Yeah. I think it's just a reference to Indy's character and the shots that they have of him like grabbing the whip at the last second, or grabbing his hat at the last second, or just
Mhm.
anything like that. Like any of those moments.
Yeah.
They've all started to reference each other.
Yeah, I'm glad that Iris In didn't go all the way into the hat and fade to black, because
Mm-hmm.
this tells you the Indy's not over yet. I think if they do come up with a short round series or Helena Shaw series, it's like young Indiana Jones. Harrison Ford's gonna come and go and come and go, and he was only in one episode from Young Indiana Jones, but You know, never say never. How many times have actors said never again? After Return of the Jedi, Harrison Ford said Han Solo, never again. When that dump truck backs up to your front door with a big wad of cash, I think you're gonna change your mind.
And he loves the
and
character.
your grandkids want to go to college. Yeah, you're gonna do it.
He loves the character, and you could tell at the premiere he was a happy man.
Right. All right. So before we wrap it up, what other fun things can you say about Dial of Destiny? I love leaving it on a positive note. Can I go first?
Sure.
Yes, please.
The Beatles.
Oh yeah.
When we
You know they mean business when they're willing to pay for a Beatles song.
Yes,
No
yes,
kidding.
no. We cut to 1969, and Indiana Jones is in a very small New York apartment, and he's woken up by his neighbor's party, and they're blaring Magical Mystery Tour. I was over the moon. We could have rolled credits right then, and I would have been very happy just to see Indiana Jones and the Beatles. The Beatles and Indiana Jones. It was perfect. But what was he watching on TV? He wasn't watching it because he was asleep. I'm sure he fell asleep the previous night, and the following morning, he woke up to H.R. Puffin Stuff.
Oh right.
One of my favorite films of the 1970s.
Oh my God.
Goodness. Here, Magical Mystery Tour with H.R. Puffin Stuff. They're pretty much all drug related. So it all works
That's very true.
on one level.
And then he's a grumpy old man. He goes next door. Why are you so loud?
Oh, sorry, Mr. Jones. Sorry, Mr. Jones. I thought that was just one of the greatest moments. Just like when we saw Indy in Crystal Skull, and you see him in the 1950s. Like, oh, we've never seen him out of the in this kind of environment before. It was such a mind trip, and it's like, oh, Indy's going on to the next level. And plus, I got a chance to say, so Indiana Jones and I lived in the same time frame.
That's right.
Yes.
1969.
Yes. I was in Boston. He was in New York. We were so close. We were so close.
Nice.
And I can't get past all the whip snapping. I love when he brings out the whip. And here he is cracking the whip at all of these mercenary gunmen, and they all just pull out their guns like, okay, this is not going to work for you this time.
No.
So Sarah, what little bits do you want to bring up that made you happy?
So I think I'll actually, I mean, I've said a lot of what I thought of the film, but the one thing I haven't really said is I mentioned that Indy, meets Archimedes, and he's in the past where he's been studying all his life. He's been studying the past, but now he's actually there. And at this point, he's been shot, and it looks like he's pretty much gonna die.
Yeah.
Yeah, like for the last 20 minutes, he's been like on death's door, but they don't really show it. But here he is. He's about to die. He's on the beach in the Roman times, talking with Archimedes. And this movie really made me thought that this is where the Indy character would die, would leave off. And I was actually okay with that because this is his life's work. Mm-hmm. And so to pass out, and he even expressed that, Yeah,
he begged Helena, please leave me here, please. Yeah. And I was kind of upset with her for not granting him this wish.
A little bit, yeah. So I would have been okay had he had a final resting place back.
I don't know what kind of butterfly effect it would have on the future.
Well, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's kind of a time loop because they brought back the Dial of Destiny
right.
from the future to the past, and which Archimedes then takes that and is like, oh, I made it. Like it's a time loop.
It's kind of like the DeLorean in Back to the Future, right? So, but if Indy had stayed there or died, it would have conflicted with old Indiana Jones in the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, the eye patch Indy.
Oh, that's true. I didn't even think about that.
We still don't know how he lost his eye. Also, they didn't cover that in this movie.
Yeah, and had he been left there, they would have said, "Now we're gonna deal with multiverses, and it's not working out for the Flash, so let's not go there."
Right. Yeah. So that I liked that, and that the movie actually made me feel like, oh, that would be okay,
yes.
or that would happen.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right. What about you, Mike?
You know what? I really enjoyed the chase sequence in New York and during, set around the parade welcoming the astronauts back from the moon, because it felt like Indiana Jones out of his element, which you don't get to see too much. Like he feels more at home in a jungle or in a temple or something, but this is like modern day New York City for 1969. And he's also kind of a man out of time, like you said with the Beatles thing. Like he feels kind of out of place. He's kind of become an antique himself. So getting to see him, ride the horse through the New York City subway, I thought that gave me a big kick. I enjoyed that quite a bit.
They had really leaned into this takes place in 1969 and with the whole space program and the whole paperclip program. I thought this was going to be more about that.
Me too. Yeah.
And I think they delved into that for about 2.5 minutes and moving right along.
Yeah.
So that kind of disappointed me because I really wanted to see, I don't know how.
The space program is amazing.
Just the whole, wait a minute, we have Nazis working for us on our space program? What's the matter with you people? And maybe Indy's finding some kind of espionage or something having to do with the space race.
Oh.
That, I would have loved to have seen that kind of more than what we got a chance to see in the final film.
Okay.
But we did get that little moment where Indy, during the parade, he like rides past the car that has all the astronauts on him. And that actually made me think of Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, where he always has these brushes with historical figures. So he got to like briefly interact with Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin and those guys.
That is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
Great. All right. So, Mike, final question. How many whip cracks do you give Dial of Destiny out of five whip cracks?
I give it 3.5 out of 5. I think that's about where I landed. I do think it just needs some editing, like we've talked about a few times. It needs to be cut down. And I think it would benefit from that greatly. If it were closer to 2 hours, I would even give it maybe 2 hours and 10 minutes. But what did you say? 2:35?
2:34, yeah. The longest Indiana Jones film yet.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, Sarah.
I think talking about this film has really made me want to see it again.
Yeah.
And made me remember some of the really fun moments. So I'm going to give it 4 out of 5 whip cracks. Okay. And also I look forward to hearing more of the soundtrack as well.
All right, I would give it 4.2 whip cracks.
Oh.
I had a lot of fun with this, and I lean more into the fun of it, because this is what Indiana Jones films should be, about the fun. I had some problems with it, but when we see it again, I know I'm just going to look past this, and I just want to have a fun roller coaster ride that Indiana Jones has brought to us for 42 years.
Yeah.
So, Mike, if anyone wants to reach out to you on social media and say if you were wrong about something, or they loved your opinion or comments, or how many whip cracks you gave this, where do they go?
Well, you can find me contributing to laughingplace.com all the time. That's my full-time gig. But on social media, mostly I'm posting on Instagram these days, which is very new to me. I'm still kind of figuring it out, but it's fun. You get to share pictures. You guys know what Instagram is.
Yes.
I'm new to it, but it's been around for quite a while. I gave up on Twitter because it made me angry, and I don't want to hear people's opinions anymore. That was where I came down on that. I don't want anyone's opinions to come into my life unless I ask for them on my podcast, which is called Who's the Bossk, and you can find that wherever you find podcasts to listen to.
Excellent. Yes, and on our video version of this podcast, you can see your handle there at Who's the Bossk Pod.
Yeah, that's both Twitter and Instagram. But like I said, Twitter I'm not really using all that much, except for official podcast business.
Nice.
All right, now let's leave everyone with this word of advice. Go see Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. I would love for this just to be a huge, huge hit. And it deserves to be a huge hit. It's a lot of fun. If you love nostalgia, if you want that roller coaster ride again, go see Dial of Destiny.
And if you want to see Harrison Ford looking hot at any age.
Can I ask you one final question?
Sure.
They've been selling these artifacts at the Disney parks. So this is the fertility idol from Raiders of the Lost Ark. I also have the Sankara stone. I have the headpiece of the Staff of Ra. I have the Holy Grail. I did not buy the Crystal Skull, so I'm not a big fan of that movie, but it is a very neat piece. If they do make the Dial of Destiny, do you think I should get it? You guys aren't collecting. I was going to ask if you were going to get it, but you haven't bought these, right?
No, but, well, a good question would be, if we were to buy one of them, choose one, which would you choose? And I would choose wisely and choose the Grail, the Holy Grail, because I think it just looks so cool.
Okay. I would go with the Staff of Ra.
Oh, yeah, that's a cool piece, too.
I love that piece.
Yeah.
And I also love the crystal skull. It looks like a big alien head. Yeah. Well, it is a big alien head.
So
it lights up.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay, well, okay, so if I would say for you, Mike, if the Dial of Destiny, if the Antikythera does something when you put the pieces together, you should get it. But if it's just
if it lets me travel back in time, I should get it.
Yes, where you can kill Nazis in your dragon planes.
Right, but just make sure the stars are aligned correctly to your time zone, because otherwise you're going to end up somewhere else. Mm-hmm. So, yes, but I would say yes, if it does something cool, like how your Shankara stones light up or things like that, I think you should get it. If it doesn't, if it just sits there, then it's a dust collector, and you shouldn't.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
So, yes, Mike, we encourage everyone to buy Disney merchandise and have us look at it and enjoy it in your home.
Yes.
Will do.
Nice.
Well, that wraps up episode 424 of Skywalking Through Neverland. We want to thank our good friend Mike Celestino for coming on the show and sharing all his thoughts and criticisms and viewpoints on Dial of Destiny. And we want to thank Lucasfilm and Disney for inviting us to the world premiere. I'm calling it the world premiere. And thanks to all you Skywalkers who have been commenting on all our videos, our Instagram videos, our YouTube Reels, TikToks, all the above. Thank you for commenting and liking.
Yeah. Well, remember, Skywalkers, meet us and play some awesome Star Wars trivia on July 21st at San Diego Comic-Con. And are you interested in our books? Well, autographed copies of Today and Star Wars History, Part 1 and 2, and Skywalking Through My Fandom, the interactive notebook, are available now from skywalkingthroughneverland.com/book.
And we want to thank our sponsor once again, Small World Vacations, for their continued support. Thinking of a trip to a Disney park? Well, you can fill out a Get a Quote form at smallworldvacations.com today. Their vacation planning service is free of charge, so check it out and tell them Skywalking Through Neverland sent you. And also tell them Mike Celestino sent you as well. Hey, Mike.
Would you like to support Skywalking Through Neverland? Well, you can support us through the Skywalking Force, our Patreon. And that Skywalking Force, you have access to bonus content in the form of our Zoom discussions on the latest Disney Plus shows. We are starting up our Secret Invasion discussions very soon. Look for that on social media. And you also get a coupon code to use for our books. So you can head to skywalkingforce.com and have a look at the options. And thank you to those of you who are already part of the Skywalking Force.
Now, we are part of the Skywalking Network.
Skynet.
Mike, give us a Skynet.
Skynet.
Awesome. Where you can find other great shows like Talking Apes, where an episode just came out today about the comic adaptations of the films. You can also find the Max Effects podcast,
the Neverland Clubhouse,
Totally Tell Me Everything,
Star Wars-ologies,
and the YouTube shows Collectopolis and Today in Star Wars History.
You can find us on social media. We are at Skywalking Pod for Twitter and Instagram and also TikTok. And you can join our Facebook group. So just search Facebook for Skywalking Through Neverland. You can also email us and tell us how many whip cracks. How many? Oh my God.
Hey. Was that a slip?
It was a slip.
I hope you didn't mean that.
How many whip cracks do you give Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny? You can email us, share@skywalkingthroughneverland.com. We would love to read your comments about that on the next episode.
Now, don't forget to stick around for bloopers and other fun bits that didn't make it into the show. And
always remember,
Neverland
on
Alderaan.
Hey, look at those names to the left. They are part of the Skywalking Force, our Patreon.
Become a producer yourself and check out all the Disney Plus themed bonus content available depending on the level you subscribe.
Become a member of the elite Skywalking Force at skywalkingforce.com.